Peace is never quiet. It's just the moment before someone tries to take it away. The camera would open on mist and movement, waves crash against black rock. The morning light of Windmere Cove cuts through a thin line of fog. Seagulls slice the silence as if testing how strong it is. Inside the cliff house, Clara Jennings moves slowly, like someone learning what calm feels like after decades of noise. She pushes open the tall windows. A chill breeze rolls in carrying salt and the steady rhythm of the sea. Her hair, streaked with silver, moves gently across her face. She closes her eyes for a second. No ringing phones. No meetings. No people asking for her signature. Just the ocean. On the marble counter sits a single flute of champagne beside an open laptop. The screen glows with the words, "Sale completed. The deal is done." After 30 years of running Jennings and Comber marketing, Clara has sold her empire. $3 million wired. Her office keys turned in. Her new chapter beginning. She lifts the glass, studying the tiny bubbles climbing to the top. Her reflection swims in the gold liquid. "To silence," she whispers and takes a slow sip. The sound of the sea fills the empty rooms like applause. If this were film, the voiceover would begin now, soft but certain. 30 years of noise. And now I finally hear the sea. Cut to memories. A younger Clara typing late at night in a half-lit office. Stacks of reports. A trembling hand signing merger. Papers. A faint smile the day she mailed her retirement letter. Each. Image flickers like pieces of a life spent chasing approval. Then, silence again, the kind she earned, not the kind forced on her. The stillness breaks. A phone buzzes on the counter, sharp and impatient. The name flashes, Jason Jennings. Clara hesitates before answering. Her thumb rests above the green icon. For a moment, she considers letting it ring out. But old habits win. She swipes. "Jason?" His voice carries no warmth, only purpose. "Mom, hey. Listen, about the beach house. Not how are you, not congratulations on the sale." Straight to business, Clara turns toward the sea. "What about it?" "I told Rebecca's family they could use it for 2 weeks. They've been dying for a proper vacation." She almost laughs. "Jason, I just moved in yesterday." "That's fine," he says quickly. "You could take a hotel or stay with Aunt Marie for a bit." "You don't even like big houses." There it is, the familiar tone. Charm coated in pressure. "Jason, it's not a rental property," she says, keeping her voice steady. "It's my home," he sighs, long and theatrical. "Mom, you don't need all that space. You shouldn't be alone at your age. It's not healthy." Something in Clara tightens. "I'm 63, not 93. "I'm just saying you could use company," he continues. "Besides, they're family. Rebecca's parents, her sister, a few cousins. You'll love them," she closes her eyes. The sound of waves becomes louder than his words. When he speaks again, his voice hardens. "Don't be selfish, Mom. You've got more than enough. It's time to share." She remembers him at 10 years old, refusing to share a single toy until she forced him to. "Some things never change. I'll think about it," she says softly. "You always think." "Just say yes for once," he snaps. Then before she can reply, the line goes dead. The phone screen fades to black. Clara sets it down, fingers trembling only slightly. Outside, the tide has shifted. The waves strike harder against the rocks. She walks through her new home, the one she designed herself. Pale wood floors, wide windows, open spaces. Every detail chosen for peace. But now, with Jason's words echoing in her mind, the silence feels threatened. On the dining table lies a folder from the sale. She opens it, running her hand over the closing documents, the final proof of her independence. Jason's voice replays, "You shouldn't be alone at your age. It wasn't concern. It was control disguised as care." The same tone her late husband once used when she first wanted to start a business. The same way men at board meetings told her, "Let's not overwork yourself, Clara," when they really meant, "Stay small." She exhales slowly. "Not again," she says to the empty room. Night creeps in. The sea turns silver under moonlight. Clara sits at her desk, laptop glowing softly. She opens old photographs. Jason as a baby, Jason at graduation, Jason shaking her hand the day she promoted him to junior manager at her firm, his first and last real job. She wonders when pride turned into disappointment. Her reflection on the screen looks tired but strong. "I taught him everything about ambition," she murmurs. "Maybe I taught him too well." She closes the laptop, and the room returns to darkness except for the whisper of the tide below. Morning again. The light is brighter now, sharper, as if the ocean itself has woken to watch her. Clara brews coffee, black and strong. She opens her leather planner, old habit from her business days. Across an empty page, she writes 2 words in neat handwriting. Call Rachel Lynn, her former company lawyer, her friend, the only one who ever told her the truth even when it hurt. Beneath the note, Clara draws a small box and checks it already. Done. A soft smile touches her lips. It's not happiness exactly, it's direction. She looks out the window again. The sun cuts through the fog. The cove below glitters like a secret. The sound of gulls mixes with the slow rhythm of the waves. Voiceover. In business, I learned never to react, only to respond. And sometimes, the best response is patience. She takes her phone, scrolls to Rachel's name, and hovers her thumb above call. Not yet. Timing matters. Instead, she walks to the deck. The camera follows her steps, bare feet on wood, the breeze catching her robe. She raises the coffee cup toward the horizon like a toast to herself. If they want my peace, she whispers, they'll have to earn the noise. They didn't break into my house. They walked in like they already owned it. The ocean was calm that morning, too calm, as if the tide itself was holding its breath. Clara Jennings had just poured her coffee when she heard it, the low rumble of car engines climbing the narrow road to Windmere Cove. She frowned. Deliveries weren't scheduled. She hadn't ordered anything. Then came the first sound that changed everything. A car door slamming, then another and another. The chorus of tires crunching gravel echoed up the drive like footsteps marching into her peace. She moved to the window. Through the mist, bright colors appeared. Suitcases, beach towels, loud clothes, loud people. At the center of it all was Rebecca Jennings, her daughter-in-law, waving as if this were a family vacation instead of a trespass. Rebecca's voice cut through the air before Clara could even open the door. Surprise, Mom! The front door swung open before she could reach it. Rebecca stepped inside, perfume first, smile wide. Jason said you'd be thrilled. We thought we'd beat the traffic. Behind her came Diana Mercer and Gerald Mercer, Rebecca's parents, both rolling matching silver suitcases across the marble floor. They didn't look around in awe. They looked around like inspectors reviewing their new property. Lovely place, Gerald muttered, setting his bag down with a thud. Bit sterile, though. Diana's eyes swept the living room. Oh, yes, dear, very modern. Almost too modern. Need some warmth. Clara stood still, coffee mug in hand, the steam rising between them like a thin barrier. I wasn't expecting, she began. Oh, we wanted to surprise you, Rebecca said, brushing past her toward the living area. Jason told us you moved in last week. We figured you could use some company. That word again. Always sounding like kindness, but carrying the weight of intrusion. More voices followed. Sophie Mercer, Rebecca's sister, came in juggling beach bags and 2 restless kids who immediately darted toward the stairs. Ethan Mercer, Rebecca's brother, strolled behind them with his girlfriend Lana, both glued to their phones. Clara tried to greet them, but her words were drowned out by chatter. Rebecca, still smiling, gestured around the room. Wow, this place could use warmer decor, don't you think? Maybe softer colors. It's a bit cold for a beach house. It's my home, Clara said gently. Not a resort. Rebecca laughed like she hadn't heard the difference. Within minutes, the invasion was complete. Sophie's children thundered upstairs, shouting claims over which room had the better view. Ethan and Lana argued over the den. Gerald tested the recliner as if it were showroom furniture. Diana headed straight to the master bedroom without asking, trailing a cloud of floral perfume. When Clara followed, she found Diana already unpacking. Oh, this bed is perfect for my back, Diana said, fluffing pillows. Don't worry, dear, we'll keep it tidy. Clara blinked. That's my room. Oh, don't fuss, Diana said with a laugh. We're family. In the kitchen, Gerald opened the refrigerator. Only sparkling water? Where's the real stuff? Rebecca called out. Dad, there's a grocery store nearby. Mom, make a list for Clara, will you? The sound of her own name used like that, an errand girl in her own home, sent a small tremor of disbelief through her. She set her coffee mug down, hard enough for a soft crack to echo in the marble counter. This isn't a hotel, she said quietly. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The room froze for half a second. Diana looked up from her suitcase, smiling sweetly. Oh dear, don't take it that way. We're just here to enjoy family time. Rebecca chimed in. Jason said you'd be fine with it. He didn't want to bother you. That word again, bother. As if boundaries were inconveniences. Clara straightened. Next time, ask first. Of course, Rebecca said quickly, then turned to her phone, already ignoring her. An hour later, the kitchen was unrecognizable. Rebecca had emptied shelves, rearranged pans, and placed labels on spice jars. This will make things more efficient, she explained, sliding Clara's groceries into a box. Diana nodded approvingly. Yes, order is everything. Clara stood by the doorway, watching her hard-won piece being dismantled, piece by piece. She tried to help, offered to carry her own boxes, but Rebecca waved her off. Oh no, you rest, Mom. You've done enough over the years. The words were polite. The tone wasn't. A compliment meant to sound like a retirement notice. Clara smiled faintly and carried her box to the garage herself. Out on the deck, the wind whipped her hair. The sky had darkened. The ocean was restless again. She looked through the sliding glass door at the people inside, moving furniture, talking loudly, acting as though her house had simply been waiting for them. Her voice, low and steady, filled the faceless screen. People show their truest selves when they think you're powerless. She turned the phrase over like a coin in her hand. Power. The thing she once wielded effortlessly in boardrooms. Now tested in her own home. The scene lingered on her face. No anger, just calculation. The same calm she used to have before closing a business deal she knew she'd already won. By sunset, Windmere Villa no longer sounded like a sanctuary. Laughter, shouting, televisions blaring from 2 rooms. The smell of heavy food and cheap candles filled the air. Sophie's children chased each other through the hallway, leaving smudges on the white walls. Gerald complained about the Wi-Fi. Ethan connected speakers to his phone, flooding the space with music. Clara sat at the far end of the living room, tea untouched. Every sound pressed against her piece like waves against glass. Rebecca appeared, smiling again. Mom, we're thinking of having a big family dinner tomorrow night. Maybe invite some friends? Make it lively, Clara nodded once. Sure. Inside, she wrote the word lively on the wall of her mind and filed it under warnings. Later, after everyone drifted off to their rooms, Clara cleared the living area by herself. She stacked empty glasses, wiped crumbs, straightened a painting someone had hung crooked. Then she sat at her small writing desk by the window. The sea outside was black now, glittered only by moonlight. She opened a small notebook, leather cover, lined pages, and wrote one word across the top. Plan. Under it. She began listing details like she was preparing another merger, confirm ownership papers, secure finances, call Rachel, observe. Wait. She paused, listening to laughter echo faintly through the halls. Then, below her list, she added a 6th point in smaller handwriting. Let them underestimate me. She closed the notebook and exhaled slowly. Revenge doesn't always start with anger. Sometimes it starts with a list. The next morning broke slow and heavy, a gray sheet of mist wrapping around the cliffs of Windmere Cove. Inside, the villa was already alive with noise, pots clanging, laughter too loud for morning, doors slamming. Clara Jennings moved quietly through it all, unnoticed, like a ghost in her own home. A half-empty mug of coffee steamed in her hand as she passed Diana Mercer complaining about the quality of the guest towels and Gerald arguing with Sophie's son over the TV remote. But Clara wasn't listening anymore. Not really. She'd stopped reacting hours ago. Now she was observing. Every voice became data. Every complaint, a weakness. When she reached her office corner, she shut the door gently and took a slow breath. The camera would linger on her face, calm, unreadable. Her reflection in the laptop screen flickered like a poker player about to make her first move. She clicked contacts and hit call. Rachel Lynn's voice came through the speaker, crisp, professional, confident. She was everything Clara had trained her to be. Clara, how's the ocean treating you? Clara's lips curved slightly. Loud, but predictable. Rachel, I need you to send me copies of the Windmere property deed and the ownership agreements. All originals are with you, right? Of course, Rachel said without missing a beat. Any issue? Not yet. Just, Preparation. There was a pause on the other end. Rachel knew that tone, the one Clara used right before a major negotiation. "I'll overnight everything," Rachel said finally. "Full ownership records, sale confirmation, and legal proof of transfer. You want me to flag the property as private too?" "Yes," Clara said. "No one lists, rents, or touches this house without my written approval." "Got it, I'll set that immediately." Clara looked toward the window. In the distance, Rebecca was sunbathing on her deck, sunglasses glinting in the light. "Rachel?" Clara added. "Yes?" "Make sure it's airtight. I want to sleep easy again." Rachel smiled softly through the line. "Then let's lock the doors from the inside this time." The second call was shorter but sharper. David Cole, her accountant for 15 years, answered on the first ring. "Clara, congrats again on retirement." "How's paradise?" "Crowded," she said. "Ah, family visit? You could call it that." She explained in brief. The noise, the chaos, the groceries disappearing, the subtle tension. David whistled. "I see. You're calling because you want to protect the assets, right?" "Exactly. I want the house funds separate. Household costs shouldn't touch my personal accounts." "Good move. I'll create a new expense account under maintenance. Keep it capped. And make sure Jason's name isn't attached to anything. Not a line, not a document." "Already done since you sold the company," David said. "But I'll triple check. I know how family can be." She smiled faintly. "You don't." "Then I'll take your word for it," he replied, tone softening. "Don't worry, Clara. Your walls are solid, financially and otherwise." When the call ended, she leaned back, feeling the faint pulse of control returning. The third call wasn't business. It was personal strategy. Tom Alvarez, a retired cop-turned-private investigator, had helped Clara once during a messy corporate buyout. He owed her a favor. "Tom Alvarez Investigations," he answered in his gravelly voice. "Clara Jennings," she said. "I need information." He chuckled. "What kind of information?" "Family background checks." A pause. "On who?" "My in-laws." "The Mercers," he whistled. "So you want a background check on in-laws?" "Think of it as a family audit." Tom laughed, the sound rough and familiar. "All right, boss. Any specifics?" "I want to know everything that could make them uncomfortable if they thought I knew it." Tom's voice turned serious. "You planning to scare them or protect yourself?" "Both," she said calmly. He grunted. "Understood. I'll dig quiet and clean. No traces." "Good. Send me the report directly to my new address box." She ended the call. On her desk, the reflection of the sea shimmered across the phone screen like a living pulse. She didn't wait long before the next test arrived. Diana appeared in the doorway, smiling like a queen with her servant. "Clara, dear, could you pick up a few things from the store? We're running low on essentials." She handed her a folded paper. Clara unfolded it, 3 full pages. Organic meats, imported cheeses, sparkling juices, 10 brands of wine. Gerald added, "Oh, and my whiskey. Glen Whistle 18. None of that cheap stuff." Rebecca called from the hallway. "And hurry, Mom, dinner's soon." The word mom had never sounded so much like maid. Clara stared at the list for a long moment. Then she smiled. "Of course, I'll get everything." Diana patted her arm. "That's a dear." As she turned to leave, Clara said softly, "I'll be gone for a few hours." "Take your time," Rebecca chirped. "We'll make ourselves comfortable." "Oh," Clara murmured. "I'm counting on it." The camera would follow her car winding down the foggy coastal road, the perfect moment for a voiceover. In business, we called it risk control. In family, it's survival. The first stop wasn't the grocery store. It was the hardware shop. She bought new padlocks, motion sensors, and a small hidden camera system. The clerk joked about her big house security. Clara smiled politely, but said nothing. Next, she went to the bank. The same teller who'd handled her retirement payout greeted her warmly. Clara asked to reset all digital access, issue a new debit card, and separate accounts by address. Then she drove to the post office, a private P.O. box registered under her initials, CJ. No one else would know it existed. Only after the serious work did she stop at the grocery store. She filled the cart with everything on the list, except she switched brands and quantities just slightly. Not enough to notice at first glance, just enough to annoy. Power in tiny details. As she packed the bags into her car, she looked out over the harbor. Boats rocked on the tide, seagulls drifted lazy circles. Her phone buzzed, a text from Rebecca. "Get sparkling wine too. Forgot to add." Clara smiled to herself. Forgot to add. People like Rebecca always added. Opinions, demands, insults hidden in sweetness. Not this time. By the time she returned to the villa, the sun had started to set. Warm orange light poured across the driveway, catching on car doors and beach toys. When she stepped inside, chaos met her like heat. Sophie's kids were painting with finger colors on the walls of the hallway. Ethan was playing loud music from the den. Diana and Rebecca were arguing about whether to move the dining table closer to the window. Gerald looked up from the couch, holding a drink. "Took you long enough, Clara. We were starving." She placed the bags on the counter. "You'll live." Rebecca peeked inside. "Oh, you got the regular cheese, not the imported one." Clara smiled. "My mistake. I'll fix it next time." "Next time?" Rebecca echoed, satisfied. But the camera would linger on Clara's face, smiling outwardly, her eyes calm and cold. A storm behind glass. Hours later, when the house finally quieted, Clara sat again at her desk. The walls were streaked faintly with paint, the scent of cooking still heavy in the air, but she didn't care. The first real step had been taken. She opened her notebook to a clean page. In neat handwriting, she wrote, "Step 1, let them feel safe. Step 2, let them feel smart. Step 3, take it all back." Then she paused, pen hovering above the page. Below it, she added in smaller letters. "Rule: never let emotion replace logic." She closed the book. Outside, the tide crashed harder, closer. In her reflection on the window, the waves looked like ink spreading across paper, each one erasing another piece of her restraint. The voiceover returned, low and deliberate. "They came into my home uninvited. They called it family. But in every business, there's a difference between a partner and a parasite." The sound of wind filled the final frame, rattling the deck chairs as she turned off the lights one by one. The house went dark again, but this time it wasn't silence she wanted. It was patience, because patience, she knew, was the sharpest weapon of all. The best way to win a war is to let your enemy believe they've already won. The morning sun over Windmere Cove was bright and careless, a cruel contrast to Clara's sharpening thoughts. The house was awake early, laughter, the hum of a blender, the chatter of people who'd mistaken someone's home for a hotel. Clara stood at the window with her coffee, watching Rebecca snap selfies on the deck. Her daughter-in-law had claimed the best chair for herself, feet up, sunglasses on, barking orders like she was hosting her own private event. Behind her, Diana and Gerald Mercer were flipping through magazines, talking loudly about the perfect summer party they were planning. It wasn't long before Rebecca called out, voice ringing like a bell that nobody asked to hear. "Mom, we've been talking. What do you think about a seaside networking night? You know, a classy barbecue. Family, friends, Jason's colleagues. Everyone would love this view." Clara turned slowly, her face soft as morning light. "That sounds wonderful," she said. Rebecca blinked. "Really?" "Yes," Clara replied, setting down her cup. "You're right. Let's do it." The words landed too easily. Rebecca hesitated, almost suspicious, but pride overpowered instinct. "Perfect. I'll text Jason to come early so he can help." "Of course," Clara said with a small smile. "The more, the merrier." Inside, her mind began to write a checklist. Every trap needs bait, and tonight her bait would wear linen and pearls. By late afternoon, the sound of a car engine rose from the hill, smooth and arrogant. Jason Jennings arrived like a man stepping onto a stage. Loud music, tinted windows, designer sunglasses. He jumped out before the car stopped rolling. "Mom, look at this place!" he shouted, spreading his arms. "This house screams potential. Networking, retreats, family investments. We could make a fortune." Clara walked down the driveway to meet him. "Good to see you too," she said evenly. He gave her a quick hug that felt more like a press release, warm for the camera, cold in reality. Rebecca appeared, breathless. You're just in time. We're planning the big party. Jason grinned. A party? Perfect. Let's show everyone what our family can do. Clara's lips twitched. Our family? He didn't hear her, or pretended not to. The afternoon became a blur of preparations. Guests began to arrive even before the setup was finished. Friends of friends, business partners of Jason, and distant relatives of the Mercers. The air filled with voices and assumption. Jason moved among them like a politician, gesturing grandly toward the villa. This place? He said, laughing. Oh, I manage it. It's part of the family trust now. Mom wanted it handled properly. Every word was smooth. Lies coated in pride. Clara overheard it all from the balcony above, hidden in the shade. She didn't flinch. She didn't interrupt. Because when someone's busy lying, the smartest thing you can do is let them speak, long enough to build their own rope. Below, Rebecca smiled proudly, letting the falsehood hang in the air like perfume. Clara turned away, calm as ever, and walked back inside. She opened her notebook, flipped past the list that had started it all, and wrote one new line. Step 4. Make them choke on their confidence. She reached for her phone, scrolling to a name she hadn't used in years, Tom Morrison, owner of Seabreeze Events. He'd catered her company's biggest deal-closing dinner a decade ago. Reliable, extravagant, silent. He answered on the second ring. Tom Morrison. Tom, it's Clara Jennings. A pause, then warmth. Clara, the legend herself. Retired now, I hear. Trying to be, she said lightly. Listen, I need a favor. A full catering service, seaside event tonight. No expense spared. Seafood gala, oysters, lobster, champagne. The best you have. Tonight? He repeated. That's short notice, Clara. I'll double your rate. A short silence. Then, you'll have my best team in 3 hours. What's the guest count? Let's say to 30. Maybe 40 if word spreads, Tom chuckled. Sounds like old times. It always is, she said, ending the call. What followed could play like a film sequence, a silent flurry of motion beneath the fading sun. Trucks winding up the hill, unloading silver trays and white linen tables. Strings of golden lights coiled along the deck rails. Waiters setting crystal glasses that caught the light like sparks. Rebecca saw the first truck and clapped her hands. Oh, Jason, you did hire caterers. Jason looked confused but puffed his chest. Of course I did. What kind of party would this be without class? Neither asked who actually made the call. Perfect. Clara moved through the preparations like a conductor guiding an invisible orchestra. Every step planned, every detail precise. She even ordered 2 more cases of vintage champagne, the kind Jason couldn't afford on his best day. When one of the workers asked her, "Ma'am, who's footing the bill?" She smiled slightly. That will sort itself out. By twilight, the villa had transformed. The driveway glittered with the reflections of expensive cars. Music floated through the salty air, soft jazz mixed with laughter and the hum of waves. The smell of grilled seafood rolled over the cliffs. Rebecca wore a flowing dress, her hair perfectly styled. Diana shimmered in sequins, already telling guests how her family had secured this exclusive coastal property. Gerald bragged about business contacts. Sophie filmed everything for social media, and Jason, center of it all, grinned wide, shaking hands and posing like a host in his own mansion. Then the camera pans, slow, deliberate, to the top of the staircase. Clara Jennings stands there in a long black dress, silver necklace catching the light. Calm, elegant, in control. She moves down the steps one by one, her expression unreadable. People glance up, unsure whether to greet her or avoid her gaze. Clara? Rebecca chirps. Come join us. We started without you. I noticed, Clara says softly, her voice carrying enough weight to hush the nearest conversation, but she smiles again, a small curve that could mean anything. Let's make it a night to remember. Headlights sweep across the lawn. 2 large catering trucks roll up the drive, polished chrome gleaming under string lights. The bold blue logo on the side reads, Seabreeze Premium Catering. Rebecca freezes. Jason's grin falters. Waiters step out in crisp uniforms, arranging platters of oysters, shrimp, and lobster tails. Silver champagne buckets appear like magic. Who? Jason starts. But Clara interrupts smoothly. If we're doing this, she says, voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Let's do it right. Gasps, laughter, applause from guests who assume it's all part of the plan. Cameras flash. Someone cheers, now this is a party? Rebecca tries to whisper something to Jason, but he's already too busy pretending he planned it. Clara walks past them, thanking the caterers, moving through her house as if hosting her own victory celebration. As night deepens, the tables glow under the lights. The ocean wind carries laughter, music, the clink of crystal glasses. Waiters in white gloves move through the crowd, pouring Dom Perignon into tall flutes. Jason finally finds a moment to approach her. Mom, he whispers tightly, this is insane. This must have cost, she looks at him calmly. You said you managed the property. Managers handle expenses. He stares at her, realization dawning slow and painful. Mom, you didn't, but before he can finish, Clara raises her glass. To family, she says. Voice even and cutting, and to good management. Guests cheer, glasses clinking all around. Jason forces a laugh, his eyes darting nervously toward the staff unloading another tray of lobster. Rebecca looks pale, her smile stretched too thin. As the party continues, Clara steps to the edge of the deck, away from the crowd. The wind picks up, carrying the smell of salt and firelight. She watches the guests laugh and eat and dance, oblivious to the small disaster forming around their hosts. The camera lingers on her face, serene and distant. In her reflection on the glass door behind her, Jason can be seen laughing loudly, the hollow laugh of someone trying to hold his world together. She lifts her glass slowly, looking straight across the deck at him. Jason meets her eyes. Unsure why his stomach sinks, she gives a faint smile and raises her champagne in a silent toast. He mirrors the motion, confused, uneasy. Her voice drifts over the music, low, cold, deliberate. In business, optics are everything. Tonight, the optics were lethal. She drinks, turns away, and disappears into the house. Behind her, the party keeps glowing, not realizing the fuse has already been lit. Some debts aren't paid with money, they're paid with silence. Morning came heavy and unkind. The ocean outside was restless, churning gray under a dull sky, as if even the sea knew a storm had passed through. Inside the Windmere villa, that storm had names: Jason, Rebecca, and every Mercer who had mistaken Clara's peace for weakness. The party was over. The deck still glittered with broken glass and deflated decorations. Empty bottles lined the railing like evidence from a crime scene. A plate of half-eaten lobster sat forgotten on the piano. The air smelled of salt, smoke, and champagne that had gone flat overnight. Clara Jennings stood at the kitchen counter in her robe, calmly cleaning a single champagne glass. Her movements were slow, deliberate, like someone polishing a weapon after battle. Behind her, the family was waking up one by one, groaning, complaining, piecing together the night before. Rebecca's voice came first. "Oh, my head," she moaned, stumbling into the kitchen. "Did anyone even turn off the music last night?" Diana appeared next, wrapped in an expensive shawl. "My back's killing me. That sofa was impossible." Gerald yawned loudly, scanning the room. "Where's breakfast? Didn't we buy groceries?" Ethan's voice echoed from the hallway. "The pool's full of trash. Someone dropped a steak knife in there." Clara kept cleaning her glass, the sound of water steady and soft. Jason finally entered, still wearing yesterday's shirt. His eyes were red. His phone buzzed constantly on the counter beside him. "Morning, Mom," he muttered, half smiling, hoping charm could sweep away reality. "Fun night, huh?" She didn't answer. He chuckled nervously and began sorting through papers scattered across the counter. Catering notes, guest lists, invoices. His fingers froze when he saw the envelope marked Seabreeze Events. He opened it. The color drained from his face. Jason stared at the page like it might rewrite itself. $18,000, he whispered. Rebecca leaned over his shoulder. "That can't be right," he laughed, the kind of laugh that isn't really laughter. This is crazy. "Mom, you can't expect me to—" Clara turned, drying the single glass with a towel. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "You're the manager, remember?" Jason blinked. "What?" "You said it yourself," she continued, setting the glass down with a soft click. "You manage the property for the family trust. Managers handle expenses." "Congratulations, Jason. You just hosted a very successful event." Rebecca's jaw dropped. "You're kidding, right?" Clara tilted her head. Do I look like I'm kidding? Silence fell like a blade. Jason opened his mouth, closed it, then rubbed his forehead. You planned this. Clara's eyes didn't move from his. I prepared for it. Before he could answer, the silence was broken by the sound of a phone ringing. Not Jason's. Not Clara's. The landline. Its sharp tone sliced through the heavy air. Clara answered it, voice steady. Windmere residence, a woman's voice replied cheerfully, unaware she was about to detonate a bomb. Good morning, Mrs. Jennings. This is Linda Keene from Seaside Realty. I just wanted to confirm a few details about your property listing before we post it publicly. Clara's eyes flickered, calm and deadly. Property listing? Yes, the one submitted yesterday evening by Mr. Jason Jennings. He said he's your son and manages the sale on behalf of the family trust. The kitchen froze. Even the wind outside seemed to pause. Rebecca's lipstick-stained coffee mug trembled in her hand. Diana gasped audibly. Jason went pale. It's a misunderstanding. Clara pressed the speaker button and placed the phone on the counter. Her voice was soft. Go ahead, Linda, Linda continued, oblivious to the drama unraveling. I just wanted to confirm the asking price, $3.2 million, correct? And that you're moving out immediately after the sale? Rebecca's mouth fell open. Jason. Diana clutched the counter for balance. You tried to sell it? Clara watched him without blinking. Go on, Linda, she said. Also, Linda added, I need confirmation that the buyer funds will be directed to the joint account ending in 99? Under the name Jason Jennings. Jason lunged for the phone. Stop talking! Clara's voice cut through his like ice. Linda, thank you for your time. There's been a mistake. The property is not for sale, and any documents you've received are fraudulent, Linda stammered. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Jennings. Should I? Forward everything to my attorney, Rachel Lynn, Clara said smoothly. She'll handle it. Of course, Linda said quickly. I'll send it right now. Clara hung up. The silence that followed was worse than shouting. Jason finally broke it. Mom, listen. No, she interrupted, calm as ever. You listen. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to something colder than anger. You walked into my house, spent my money, embarrassed me in front of strangers, and now you tried to sell my home? Jason's hands shook. It wasn't like that. I was just what? She said softly. Testing how far I'd let you go? He looked at the floor. Rebecca tried to speak. It's not just his fault, Clara. Clara turned her gaze on her and the words died instantly. Clara's voice was calm, quiet, absolute. You have 2 hours. Pack and go, Diana stepped forward, indignant. You can't just throw family out. Clara turned to her slowly, her eyes tired but unflinching. Watch me, Gerald puffed his chest. We're not some strangers you can order around. Clara didn't argue. She simply walked to the front door, opened it wide, and let the sound of the sea flood in. Wind swirled through the room. A cold and final, 2 hours, she repeated. No one moved. Rebecca's voice cracked. You can't be serious. Where are we supposed to go? Clara didn't answer. She just stood by the open door, one hand on the frame, staring out at the horizon. Finally, Diana muttered something about calling Jason's lawyer. Gerald swore under his breath. The spell broke. Chaos began. It was almost cinematic. A montage of unraveling pride. Rebecca running from room to room, stuffing clothes into designer bags. Diana arguing with Gerald about what to pack first. Ethan dragging suitcases down the hall. Knocking over furniture, Sophie shouting for her kids to find their shoes, Jason trying to keep order. But his voice cracked every time he spoke. The house once filled with laughter and arrogance, now echoed with panic and accusation. Jason, this is your fault. Rebecca yelled. My fault? You told me to handle it. I didn't tell you to sell her house. Clara stood in the doorway the whole time. Silent. Watching. Waiting. A moving truck could never have carried out as much noise as they did in those 2 hours. At last, the driveway was full again. Car doors slamming, tires screeching, the same way it had started. Rebecca's last words before she left were almost a whisper. You'll regret this, Clara. Clara's response was gentle. I already did. Once. When the final car disappeared down the winding road. Silence settled back over the villa like dust after a battle. Clara stood in the doorway. staring at the empty driveway. For the first time in days, she could hear the ocean again. Steady, endless, forgiving, she closed the door slowly, her hand lingering on the wood. Then she leaned back against it and exhaled a long, trembling breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The camera would linger on her face, relief, exhaustion, power. She walked through the house one room at a time. Everywhere she looked were signs of them. Footprints on the tile, lipstick on glasses, fingerprints on windows. But it was hers again. Every smudge a reminder that she had taken her life back. She reached the kitchen, poured herself a fresh glass of water, and sat at the table. Outside, gulls wheeled in the gray sky. Her voice returned, soft and measured the way it had begun. Silence. Real, beautiful silence. The kind you earn after standing your ground. The kind they never thought I had left in me. The camera would pull back slowly. Clara at the table. The ocean beyond. The house finally still. They came for comfort. They left with a lesson. And I, for the first time in years, was home. The most dangerous enemy is the one who stays calm after winning. Windmere Cove was quiet again, the kind of quiet that made the air hum, the kind that only came after a storm. It had been 3 weeks since Clara Jennings shut her door on Jason and the Mercers. 3 weeks since the shouting, the slammed car doors and the hollow threats faded down the hill. The house had healed faster than she expected. A few scratches, a few stains, but no lasting scars. Clara spent her mornings reading by the window, her afternoons walking the beach, and her evenings watching the horizon fade into gold. Peace had finally returned, or so it seemed, because wars don't end when you win. They end when the loser stops fighting, and Jason Jennings wasn't the kind to stop. The sound of a car pulling up one morning broke the rhythm of waves. Clara stepped onto her porch to see a family of 4, 2 parents, 2 kids, and stepping out of a van. Boxes, beach toys, laughter. The Patterson family, a local teacher, his wife, and their 2 polite children. They'd answered her rental ad, the one she'd posted quietly after the Mercers left. "Mrs. Jennings?" Mr. Patterson said, extending a hand. "Clara," she corrected, smiling. "Welcome to Windmere." The children ran toward the view of the cliffs, pointing and laughing. Their joy didn't feel intrusive. It felt honest. She gave them the tour, showed them the guest wing, the gardens, the path to the beach. They were careful, respectful, the opposite of her last guests. That night, as they moved in, Clara sipped her tea on the deck. The laughter drifting from their side of the house wasn't noise this time. It was proof that peace didn't always mean loneliness. She smiled faintly. Maybe some storms wash up better company. A week later, the quiet broke again. This time, not with laughter. It was a knock. Firm, precise. The kind of knock that carries paperwork. When Clara opened the door, a woman in a beige suit stood there, holding a brown folder. Her tone was professional but heavy. "Mrs. Jennings?" "I'm Rebecca Walsh, representing your son, Jason Jennings." Clara didn't flinch. "Ah, another Rebecca," the lawyer cleared her throat. "Mr. Jennings has expressed concern about your well-being. He believes you may be under manipulation or suffering from diminished judgment. He's considering filing for conservatorship to protect your estate." Clara blinked once. Slowly. "Protect," she repeated. "That's his word?" "Yes, ma'am." "He's worried." Clara smiled faintly, interrupting her. "Ms. Walsh, I appreciate your visit. I'm perfectly capable of managing my own affairs." The lawyer hesitated. "If you'd like, I can arrange for a medical evaluation to—" "Don't bother," Clara said, handing her a business card from the side table. "Give this to Jason's legal team." Rebecca Walsh looked down. The name on the card read, Rachel Lynn, attorney at law, below it, in small letters, personal counsel to Clara Jennings. Clara's smile softened, but her tone didn't. "Rachel will handle everything." The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "I see. Thank you for your time," Clara nodded politely, closing the door just before the woman could add anything else. Through the window, she watched the car drive away, slow, uncertain. They always send messengers first, she thought. Cowards never deliver their own battles. Days passed. The weather warmed. Mrs. Patterson knocked on Clara's door one afternoon, concern on her face. "Clara, I thought you should know. A man came by this morning asking about you. Oh? Clara asked, setting down her teacup. What did he want? He said he was a social worker. Asked if you were doing all right living alone. Clara's eyebrow lifted. And what did you tell him? That you're doing better than anyone I know, Mrs. Patterson said with a firm smile. Then I asked for his ID. He left pretty fast. Clara smiled, but her jaw tightened. Jason wasn't done. He was spreading lies, painting her as unstable, vulnerable, an old woman losing her grip. He wants me to be the story's villain, she thought. I'll give him a better one. That night, she walked the beach alone. The waves were steady and soft, her footsteps sinking into wet sand. The moon glowed like an unblinking eye above her. He thinks the war is about money, she said to the ocean. It's not. It's about control, and he's about to lose that too. The next morning, she found a small brown envelope in her private P.O. box, the one she'd set up weeks ago. No name on the front, just the initials TA inside, was a stack of printed reports, photos, documents, screenshots. A message paper clipped on top. You were right. He's in deep. Clara took the papers home and spread them across her desk like puzzle pieces. There it was. Everything she needed. Jason's unpaid business, loans, Rebecca's credit card debt, a rejected loan application, where Jason had listed himself as acting financial, guardian of Clara Jennings, and emails to a legal firm discussing how to declare her mentally incompetent, Clara. Read every page carefully. Her expression never changed, but her eyes hardened. So that's your game, Jason, she whispered. You want power through pity. Let's see how pity feels when it's turned back. She pulled out her phone and called Rachel Lynn. Rachel, she said calmly. It's time. Rachel Lynn didn't waste a second. By the end of the week, she'd filed a restraining order against Jason and Rebecca. Alongside it, formal harassment and elder abuse claims. The paperwork was clean, irrefutable, full of documented proof. Tom Alvarez's evidence was attached, along with witness statements from the Pattersons and the realtor Linda Keene. Within days, the legal ripples began to spread quietly through town. Windmere Cove was small, and word traveled fast. At the local cafe, people whispered, "Did you hear? That fancy Jennings family, some lawsuit thing. Thought the son was rich. Not anymore." I guess, the Mercers stopped, posting pictures from their vacations. Jason's name started disappearing from his business website, and the confident smile that once came so easily began to fade from every new photo reputation, Clara thought. It's the first currency arrogant people spend, and the last they ever get back. The next week unfolded like clockwork. Jason's landlord called demanding overdue rent. His bank flagged his accounts for suspicious activity. His credit lines froze. A client pulled out of a deal citing negative publicity. Every thread of his self-made empire unraveled in his hands. At first, he blamed others. Then the silence grew. Then the panic. Rebecca cried. Jason shouted. The neighbors watched. Their phones went unanswered. Their lawyer stopped returning calls. He'd underestimated her, not just as a mother, but as a strategist. She didn't need to lift a hand. She had built the board years ago. Now she was simply watching the pieces fall. The call came late one night. Clara was on the deck again, the sound of the tide soft beneath her feet. Her phone buzzed once, twice, then again. Jason. She let it ring twice more before answering. His voice was cracked, desperate, almost childlike. Mom? Please, Jason, she said softly. It's late. You destroyed me, he shouted. Do you have any idea what you've done? My business is gone. The bank froze my accounts. Rebecca's threatening to leave. Clara waited until his voice broke. Then she spoke quietly. No, Jason. You destroyed yourself. You think you're better than everyone? He snapped. You think you can just... I think, she interrupted. You forgot who taught you to play this game. He fell silent. The only sound was the ocean between them. Finally, he whispered, Why are you doing this to me? Clara looked out over the water, her face calm in the moonlight. Because you needed to learn the difference between power and love, I gave you both. You tried to steal one and destroy the other. Jason didn't answer. The line stayed open, carrying only the sound of his breathing. Then quietly, she said the last words he would ever hear from her directly. You taught me how to win. Jason, I'm just finishing the lesson. She ended the call. The phone screen went black, reflecting her face, tired but unbroken. The waves crashed gently below, slow and rhythmic, as if marking time between wars. There are victories you celebrate, and there are victories you survive. This one was survival, the kind that doesn't need applause, just quiet. She placed the phone on the table and poured herself another cup of tea. The camera would pull back, showing the deck, the sea, the empty chair beside her. For a moment, it would feel like she was alone again, until laughter from the Patterson kids echoed faintly from the guest wing. She smiled. Real peace, fragile but earned, settling around her once more. Some endings aren't loud. They're quiet like a door closing that will never open again. The morning was sharp, with winter light when Clara stepped out of her car and looked up at the glass building. In front of her, the law office of Rachel Lynn and Associates, the same place where her war had begun in whispers. It would now end in words. She adjusted her coat, held her folder tight, and walked inside. The conference room was silent except for the faint hum of the city outside. Rachel Lynn stood at the head of the table, her posture crisp, composed. Beside her sat Jason Jennings, eyes hollow, shoulders slumped, suit wrinkled. He didn't look like the man who once arrived at her villa with music blaring and sunglasses flashing confidence. He looked small. Clara didn't greet him. She simply sat down. Rachel cleared her throat. We'll begin now. Mr. Jennings, as agreed, this meeting is for review of the evidence before we finalize the legal settlement and restraining order. Jason tried to speak. Rachel raised a hand. Mrs. Jennings has the right to hear everything clearly before she responds. She slid a folder across the table, a thick file stamped with court seals. Inside, Rachel said, are documents confirming multiple counts of attempted property fraud, harassment, and identity misrepresentation, each tied directly to actions taken by Mr. Jennings or under his instruction. Jason's voice broke. Rachel, please, she continued, calm but firm. We also have proof of attempted conservatorship claims filed without medical grounds, as well as a series of unauthorized property listings. She turned the final page. In short, Mr. Jennings, your mother owes you nothing. Not explanation. Not forgiveness. Jason's eyes flickered toward Clara. Mom, please, She met his gaze at last. You just what, Jason? He looked down. I thought if I didn't control everything, I'd lose you. After Dad died, I didn't know how to be in charge of anything else. Clara's expression didn't soften. So you tried to own me instead. He swallowed hard. I was just trying to protect you. Control isn't protection, she said quietly. It's fear. You don't protect people by trapping them, Jason. You protect them by trusting them. The words hung in the room like glass, delicate, final. Rachel closed the file. Mrs. Jennings, how would you like to proceed? Clara didn't look at Jason again. File everything. No exceptions, he reached across the table. Mom, please, don't do this, but she was already standing. I already did. She turned and walked toward the door, her steps echoing on the marble floor. Jason called after her once, then fell silent when the door shut. 6 months passed like a long, healing breath. Windmere Cove was alive again, not with chaos but with celebration. The villa glowed under soft ribbons of light and flowers. A wedding was taking place. The Patterson daughter, Lily, stood in a simple white dress beneath an archway overlooking the sea. Clara watched from the deck, her smile faint but genuine. The guests were kind, the laughter gentle. It wasn't noise this time. It was music. She'd let them use the garden, the same one where the Mercers once argued about table placements. Now that space held love instead of ego. As Lily and her new husband exchanged vows, Clara felt something loosen inside her chest, the final thread of an old tension breaking quietly apart. When the ceremony ended, Mrs. Patterson approached her. You've given us such a gift, Clara. Thank you, Clara smiled. No, you brought joy back to this place. That's worth more than rent. The ocean wind caught her hair. Somewhere deep down, she felt the faint, unfamiliar weight of peace. Earned peace. After the guests had gone and the lights dimmed, Rachel Lynn arrived at the villa, holding a single cream envelope. From Jason, she said softly. Clara raised an eyebrow. A lawsuit? Rachel smiled faintly. No, a letter. Clara took it, weighing it in her hand. It wasn't heavy, just paper and regret. She turned it over, saw Jason's familiar handwriting on the seal. She didn't open it. Do you want to read it? Rachel asked gently. Clara thought for a moment, then shook her head. File it, she said simply. Rachel nodded, tucking it back into her folder. Some apologies, Clara added. Sound better unread. Rachel smiled. You really are at peace with this, aren't you? Clara looked toward the horizon where the sky met the sea. I'm learning, she said. Peace isn't given. It's reclaimed. Rachel placed a hand on her shoulder. Then you've reclaimed it well. The next morning dawned soft and gold. The sea stretched out like glass, the cliffs wrapped in light. Clara sat on her deck, coffee in hand, blanket over her lap. Seagulls called faintly above her. Not loud, not intrusive. Just alive. The camera would linger here, the same framing as the opening of Act 1, but everything reversed. Where once there had been loneliness, now there was peace. Where once she looked haunted, now she looked free. She breathed in deeply, eyes closed. Freedom isn't given, her voice said in narration. It's reclaimed. She set the coffee cup down gently, smiling to herself. Some storms clear the air. Others clear your life. She turned toward the sea, the wind lifting her hair slightly, a final symbol of release. The camera began to pull back, slow and wide. The villa stood silent and beautiful on the cliff, the garden blooming again, the sea shimmering under the morning sun. In the distance, the Pattersons' laughter echoed faintly, warm, distant, human. Clara sat still, watching the horizon. The voiceover faded in one last time. Calm and resolute, peace isn't the absence of noise. It's the power to choose what you let in. As the music swelled softly, the screen filled with light, the ocean endless and calm. The final text appeared, simple and clean, the house at Windmere Cove, then silence. Real beautiful silence. And so, the story of Windmere Cove ends where it began, in silence. But not the silence of loss. The silence of peace. Clara Jennings didn't win by fighting louder. She won by learning when to stop explaining, when to stop saving, and when to finally let go. Sometimes the people who try to control you aren't protecting you. They're protecting their power over you. And the most dangerous thing you can give them is your forgiveness. Freedom doesn't always look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like waking up to quiet mornings in a house that's finally your own. Because peace isn't found. It's built. One boundary at a time. And for Clara Jennings, the waves no longer spoke of endings. They whispered beginnings. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's power.